What's the key to a successful retirement? One big key is a retirement income stream that lasts as long as you and your spouse are alive. Coming up on Your Money Matters next, we'll tell you how to create this stream of income. And we'll talk to Bob Powell from MarketWatch.com. Next on Your Money Matters.
There are plenty of people who believe a safe retirement is too good to be true, that there is no safe place for you to go with your money. Even your very own government will try to tax it right out from under your nose. But you've just tuned in to information that can save your retirement nest egg. It's Your Money Matters, featuring two of America's top retirement specialists, Christy Smith and Matt Kennedy with the Presley Group. They can teach you how to retire without all of the risks. Now, let's get back to Your Money Matters.
Good morning and welcome to Your Money Matters, brought to you by the Presley Group. I'm Christy Smith. I'm joined with my co-host, Matt Kennedy. Good morning.
Morning.
Excited to be back. Boy, it seems like this week just flew by. The Labor Day weekend kind of messed us all up. I found myself on Thursday thinking it's Wednesday.
I know.
So the week just flew by, but a lot of things are going on right now. A lot of uncertainty, and we've just got a lot to talk about this morning. We're excited to be here with you.
Now, the world is sitting and watching and waiting. What's going to happen with and in Syria? So you've got lawmakers debating, and it doesn't look like Congress is going to give President Obama approval. So the question becomes, will the president order a strike on Syria, even if Congress doesn't approve it? And what does that do to the stock market if that happens? We're waiting. We're watching.
I think we're going to see a lot of uncertainty. Matt, a lot of the people that listen to us each and every week don't realize, all the things, in fact, that we do. And so this morning, if you don't mind, I'd like to take just a couple of minutes to really just kind of talk about what is it we do.
That's good.
I had two different people that came into the office to meet with me this week that, they knew that we help people protect their retirement money, but they really didn't have a true picture of what we did. And it made me realize that we just need to spend a couple of minutes talking about that. At the Presley Group, we specialize in helping you build a retirement plan. Now, many of you may not need retirement money. And so you might think, well, I don't need to go to the Presley Group because my retirement is set up and I'm happy and, I just don't need any help in that area. But the reality is that not only can we help you secure a retirement future that you've dreamed of, but we can also help those of you who are saving, maybe not for retirement, but just saving for a rainy day or even saving to build a legacy to pass on to your family.
Right. We talk about guaranteed income so much because, quite frankly, and we're going to hear from Bob Powell, by the way, from MarketWatch later in the show, his most recent article, this is no market for old investors. And he talks about how all the uncertainty means you shouldn't have a ton of your money in the market if you're, quote unquote, old. His word, not mine.
I was just about to say.
That was his word. But it's a playoff of the movie No Country for Old Men. But anyway, Bob will talk with us about that at the end of the show today. But we talk so often about guaranteed income, and I know someone listening may say, but I don't need income. I've got a pension. Please understand, our plans can be great income-producing vehicles, but they're also savings vehicles. If you're settling for point something in a CD or money market, our plans have far more potential.
And not only that, we're also certified estate planners, a CEP. Wow, what is a CEP? No, we're not attorneys, but what we are is we're trained so that we can help you plan and protect your family, not only for when you pass away, but even for when you're alive. I mean, a lot of people associate estate planning with only, what happens if I die. But the reality is a good estate plan is going to protect your family even when you're alive. And so we are certified estate planners. We're going to implement an estate plan to go with your savings plan, whether that's a savings plan for retirement or just a savings plan. And we're going to guide you in the right direction to get all of your estate planning taken care of. We're not attorneys, but we are certified estate planners. Now, many of you might have this question. You might think, what's the difference between what you do because I hear you every weekend and I hear you on the radio all the time. What's the difference between what you do and, say, a stockbroker? Or, you know, when we think of a stockbroker, we typically think of someone like Edward Jones Advisor,
Morgan
Stanley,
right.
or, you know, I'm not picking on those. I'm just using those as an
example.
example.
I get that question all the time. What makes you different?
Well, and what does make us different is that we are not securities licensed. We do not invest your money in the stock market. We rely on insurance companies because, in fact, we're licensed insurance agents. And we use insurance companies that are going to give us contractual guarantees so that we can create a steady, strong retirement future. Earlier this week, Matt, I was reading an article that it came out by an insurance company, and it's talking about the annuity bucket strategy and why, you know, having different buckets a lot of times is important. And one of the analogies that it talked about was, you know, when you think of your income bucket, you really need to think of your income bucket as think of it in relation to a water well. You know how that water well never runs dry?
Right.
You know, it's always filling, always filling. You never have to worry about, is it going to run dry? Your income bucket should really work the same exact way, because think about it. We work all these years. We make the decision to retire. We're going to rely on things like Social Security and our own retirement savings to create that personal pension plan for us. And we're going to rely on that for the rest of our lives. Well, if we have holes in our bucket, then we take the chance of either outliving our money because maybe we lived to we're 100 and didn't save enough or spend too much, or not only outliving our money, but maybe we lose our money because of how it's invested.
Market downturns happen.
Yeah, and so I think that having a solid retirement plan is going to be setting your money up into different buckets, that at least one of those buckets is going to be that water well. It's going to always be replenishing. It's going to always give you that retirement income that you don't have to worry about.
Exactly. Once upon a time when CDs were paying, 4, 5, 6%,
those days are gone.
They're gone for now. But when they were paying that, it was very common for many of you perhaps to say, okay, my broker is going to set me up in some laddered CDs. Mm-hmm. Well, those laddered CDs were what? They were buckets of money.
Right.
But the rates now on CDs are so awfully low that you really can't generate any substantial income off of CDs. This is why what we use, fixed indexed annuities or multi-year guaranteed rate annuities, are really revolutionizing people's retirement because, for example, we may take some of a portfolio and put it into an immediate payout plan. Mm-hmm. That means the moment the insurance company takes in the money, they guarantee to pay that money out to you over a certain period of time. So the river is running for, say, 5 years. Well, we've taken another hunk of money and we've put it in a position where it gets a guaranteed rate of return, and in 5 years, we turn that on, and it pays out for the rest of the life of the husband and wife.
So the water never runs dry.
Never runs dry, because it's guaranteed for life. And then there's maybe a third bucket where we just keep what I like to call mad money. It's the money you don't want to put at risk, but in the good years, it goes up. In the bad years, you're protected. And if you need to access that money for other needs, travel, emergencies, it's there for you. So you have a constant river running. You also can have a nice lake of money that you could reach into later down the road.
And it all boils down to having a strong foundation. Now, what can you do today to take steps towards creating that solid foundation? Give our office a call and schedule an appointment to come in and visit with us. We're going to have a cup of coffee. We're going to sit down. We're going to talk about your goals, your needs, and we're going to show you how we can create an income plan for you, one that you do not have to worry about running out of water, okay? Yeah. It's just that simple. Our office phone number is 791-5773, 791-5773. You can even go to our website, Matt, safemoneyplan.net, safemoneyplan.net.
Santa Clara University finance professor and well-known behavioral finance expert Meir Statman. This person, all they do is sit around and think about how people behave with money, okay?
What a fun job.
I know. Found that having a bucket strategy, or if you don't like the word buckets, a laddered strategy, can really help retirees divide retirement into digestible hunks. I mean, it's hard to eat a whole elephant, but if you eat it one bite at a time, it works, right? And this professor actually did research and found that clients who sat down and divided their retirement into stages, Christy. Okay, you see, this is going to last you for 5 years. This is going to last you for 20, and this will last you for your entire life. They can digest retirement so much better that their confidence in retirement was far greater than those who just said, here's one hunk of money, I hope it lasts.
Matt, I met with a gentleman earlier this week, and his money is invested at one of the local banks in the brokerage division. And he came in because he said he retired about 3 years ago, and he's got about $395,000. And when he started drawing income from that $395,000, they had originally told him that he could withdraw about $1,200 a month. And he said, Christy, I don't want to eat up my principal, but they started me off with $1,200 a month. And he said, very quickly, I was able to see that I was dipping into my principal. So we dropped my income payment down to $900 a month. I said, well, are you still taking out $900 a month? He goes, no, that was a year ago. Now I'm taking out $600 a month. And so he said, I have to leave my money there another about 3 weeks. He said, after that, I can take my money out. He said, I need to find a plan that's going to create stable income for me. I mean, think about it. This gentleman just retired a couple of years ago, and he's gone from $1,200 a month to $600.
Wow.
So what I was able to do is I was able to take that $395,000 and I put it into 3 different plans. It's not divided up equally.
But you got 3 buckets.
I've got 3 different buckets of money. Now, the first bucket of money, we were going to turn an immediate income on. And that bucket was going to immediately start paying out $22,000 a year in income. Now, that's a big difference from $600 a month. We're going from $600 a month to $22,000 a year. Now, that bucket was designed to only pay his income for 5 years.
But you gave him a raise from $600 a month to $1,833 a month.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Now, what I did is I put some money into the second bucket that just was in a saving mode for the first 5 years. So at the end of 5 years, when the first bucket ran dry, now we had the second bucket of money to turn on, which was going to pick up an income, again, $22,000 a year. Okay. Now, that bucket was going to pay for 5 years. So we've got this gentleman 10 years out at $22,000 a year versus, $600 a month.
Wow.
Well, at the end of 10 years, we were able to go in and access that third bucket of money. And that third bucket of money had grown so much based on contractual guarantees that it was worth more than all 3 buckets of money were combined when we got started with. And it was then going to turn on a retirement income of more than $22,000 a year. And so what we've done now is we've created a long-term, steady plan for him. And you would not believe the relief that he showed. I mean, he just couldn't believe it, because here in the last couple of years, he's decreased his income from $1,200 a month down to $600, and now all of a sudden we're showing him where contractually we can give him $22,000 a year. It was like an aha moment. He was like, I just can't believe this, And then he said, well, Christy, if you can generate this $22,000 a year with this money, I have another $90,000 somewhere else. How about I add that to it?
Right.
I said, wait a minute. Let's don't do that, because the money that you originally talked to me about is going to fix the need. So instead of taking that extra $90,000 and putting it into our income plan, let's keep that separate. So that way, if you have an emergency, these hurricane deductibles have gone up in our area. Flood insurance, people are having to pay a lot more in flood insurance now. Things come up, life. I call it everyday life. And so now he's got this other bucket of money that he's not relying on to generate his income. And yet when he has something that comes up suddenly, he just goes in there and takes it from that account. It really was creating a solid retirement plan. And you just cannot imagine the relief that I could see it in his face. It was just like relief, and there's no more guessing to it. He's like, Christy, the biggest problem that I'm having with my plan right now is that I never know what to expect for next year.
Exactly.
And so we were able to create a solid plan for him, and we can do that for you too. Many of you are still working at your job. You're over 59 and a half. you might want to consider coming in and looking at an in-service distribution. You might say, well, Christy, why do I need to look at an in-service distribution? Well, the old saying goes, buy low, get out high. The stock market's at a high right now. We don't know what's coming ahead with, all this stuff going on with Syria. Obamacare's coming into play next year. What we do know is that there's lots of changes coming in the air.
Oh, yeah.
And they will have an impact on us. So why not take steps now to prepare instead of being, reactive, become proactive?
You talk about that person who, by the way, is 59 and a half or older and still working. The IRS calls it an in-service distribution. Most companies will allow you to do this. And all it means is we're not telling you don't keep contributing to your 401k.
Absolutely not. We want you to.
If your company's giving you a match, well, you should contribute and get that free money. But if you've built up a sizable 401k, wouldn't it make sense to say, I'm going to go see Matt and Christy. I'm going to move into an IRA, so there's no taxes for moving the money. I'll move the money into an IRA, and then I will know that I can't lose it if the market goes down.
So it creates that peace of mind.
It's one bucket. You can start on your bucket right now. We can set you up a bucket so that when you do retire, let's say at 65 or 67, you won't be guessing at what the market does or how much income you're going to have. No, you'll have a contractual guarantee from a rock-solid insurance company that when you call it quits, when you've pulled that pipe wrench for the last time, you have a steady check coming in every month.
And a lot of times people will tell me that I always ask them that. I ask them, what do you think is an acceptable rate of return?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that I hear, 4-5%. And that's a decent return these days. But the reality is our income plans, we can sometimes get you as much as a 7% a year guarantee if you're growing for income. And so you really owe it to yourself to learn what your options are. And that's what we want to do. We want to help teach you how can we help you protect your retirement future. You just got to take that first step. Give us a call to come in and meet with us. Not only are we going to help you with creating a plan, but we'll also help you with creating an estate plan too, which is just as important.
Our number is 791-5773. 791-5773. If you're outside of the Baton Rouge area, we're in Denham Springs, so it's 225-791-5773. You can also just contact us directly through the website. Maybe you can't remember the phone number. Go to safemoneyplan.net. safemoneyplan.net, and you can contact us right there. Now, some of you may be saying, whoa, wait a second. I stick by the 4% rule. Why is the 4% rule not smart anymore? We'll read an article from the Wall Street Journal when we come back on Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. And welcome back to Your Money Matters here on Talk 107.3 WBRP. Your Money Matters is presented by the Presley Group. I'm Matt Kennedy, agent with the Presley Group. Christy Smith, the lady who owns the place, has to pay all the bills, is here.
That's the fun thing, huh?
Get to clean the toilets and mop the floors and all that.
The idea of self-employed, my kids would say, oh, but you're self-employed, you got life made. I'm like, no, I have to work twice as hard as someone that has a job where they're going just punch a time clock.
You're right. Well, for over 16 years, Christy and the Presley Group have been helping people just like you secure the retirement that you've always dreamed about. Now, last segment, we were discussing, buckets and laddering and making sure you have lifetime income. I know many people say, Christy and Matt, I got this. My money's in the market. I'm well diversified, and I'm going to stick by the 4% rule. Now, for those who don't know, the 4% rule was a rule that popped up back in the 80s or early 90s. And it was an economist who said that given current market conditions, you should always be able to safely withdraw about 4% per year from your investment accounts, if you're in the market. And that 4% withdrawal should last you for the rest of your life. As a matter of fact, I think he came up with some tables that said it's like an 89% probability that money would last you till age 90. But back in March of this year, an article that appeared in the Wall Street Journal kind of shook Wall Street to its core.
Well, because it went against everybody's, this is the rule of thumb for the last, 15, 20 years?
The article says, say goodbye to the 4% rule. Kelly Green wrote the article, Can Your Nest Egg Last Your Whole Lifetime? It's getting a lot tougher to tell. Conventional wisdom says you can take 4% from your savings the first year of retirement, then that amount plus more to account for inflation each year without running out of money for at least 30 years. This so-called 4% rule was devised by a California financial planner and later redefined by other retirement planning academics. And I love this next paragraph. Well, she writes, it was beautiful while it lasted. In recent years, the 4% rule has been thrown into doubt thanks to an unexpected hazard, the risk of a prolonged market rout the first 2 or even 3 years of your retirement. In other words, if the market tanks early on, it absolutely destroys your plan. And if your nest egg loses, say, 25% of its value just as you start using it, the 4% may no longer hold, and the danger of running out of money increases significantly. For example, if you retired January 1st of 2000 and you said, I'm going to have a 4% withdrawal rate and adjust for inflation, guess what? You would be left with only a 29% chance of your money lasting 30 years.
Well, the funny thing, Matt, is that in some of the income annuities that we use for our clients at age 65, they're actually able to go and take out more than 4%, depending on how long they've had the account. And here they're saying if you take 4% a year, you have a high probability of running out of money.
Yeah.
But in ours, you can take out sometimes even more than that and be guaranteed to never run out money.
Now, someone's asking how. We'll get to that in a moment. I just want to reiterate the math here, because I know math can sometimes be hard to grasp on the radio. If you retired January 1st, 2000, and you had 55% stocks and 45% bonds, and you were withdrawing 4% a year, that was your plan, right? Mm-hmm. Christy, what they're saying is because of the market downturn, the dot-com pop of 2000, the downturn 2001, and the massive Great Recession of 08, those 3 events alone leave you with only a 29% chance of not running out of money. Wouldn't you feel better if you were in plans that gave you a 100% chance
Absolutely.
of not running out of money?
Yes,
that's how our plans work.
When you're thinking about retirement income, you don't want to have to worry about, I might. You should know.
Well,
I mean, let's face it.
Here's what really rattled Wall Street. In this article in the well-respected Wall Street Journal, Kelly Green writes, how can you ensure your money lasts as long as you do? One rule is use annuities instead of bonds. There's that A word, Christy. Oh, not annuities.
Yeah.
And we're not saying put all of your money into an annuity of some kind. We're saying, what do you need to meet the necessities of life?
Right.
Put it somewhere where you can count on it.
Well, and there are different types of annuities. You say the annuity word, the A word, is a negative word. But actually, Matt, I will tell you, in the last 5 years, what we're starting to see is the annuity word really represents safety and security. We're starting to see it more and more in different articles and more of your economists. And, they're talking about annuities where, I can remember 10 years ago, the annuity word was really a bad word.
Oh, I know.
But they're waking up and smelling the coffee.
One of the things that is in this article, say goodbye to the 4% rule. By the way, if you want this article, it's just 1 page front and back. We'll be glad to send it to you. We can stick it in the mail to you. Just call us and say, I want that article they were talking about. 791-5773. 791-5773. Just call and say, I want that Wall Street Journal article, and we'll zip it out to you. There is no need for retirees to hold bonds. Annuities with a promise of income for life act like super bonds with no maturity date. That's so powerful.
It is. It is, Matt. I think that as annuity products get better and better, and as our baby boomer generation, is retiring and have so much uncertainty, they're starting to understand that they have to do things differently. And that's why annuities have become so popular. They create that level of safety and security that you just can't get when your money's in the market. I mean, it's just that simple.
I want to stress the sequence of returns. It's easy to gloss over what I said earlier. Well, if you had retired January 1st of 2000, There's something that we won't get into a lot of numbers here, but something very important you have to consider in retirement, and it's called sequence of returns. You say, well, if I get in and the market goes down, that's no big deal because the market always goes down and then back up, and I'll eventually be fine. Well, when you actually look at the numbers, if we have two brothers, one brother retires in 2000, the other brother in 2007, let's say, the brother that has to suffer through 3 market downturns ends up with a far smaller portfolio 20 years down the road than the brother who started in 2007. He weathered 1 downturn, the other brother weathered 3. The sequence of returns, the sequence of having losses followed by big gains followed by losses can wipe out your portfolio. And unless you know that the market's going to stay steady early in your retirement, you have to look at a plan that gives you guaranteed income.
Well, and that's the problem, Matt, is that we really don't know when that downturn's going to come. I like to use my children in a lot of the analogies that we work with at the office. And, you know, most of you that listen to us regularly know that our little Presley rides horses every week.
Yeah.
And we had her over the Labor Day weekend in Hattiesburg. She's riding the same horse that she's rode for the last year. She won the Louisiana State Junior High Rodeo Championship last year, but yet all of a sudden she's struggling now. And you have to kind of sit back and say, well, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Why? It's the same horse. It's the same rider. You know, why are you not consistent on it now when you were just 6 months ago? And it's the, you know, it's the uncertainty of her trying to figure out, what am I doing different?
Something changed, right?
It's something, and it's funny because then you go to looking at videos and you go to looking at pictures and, you know, you're really trying to pinpoint what made the difference because you know you're not going to improve until you fix that one problem. And so over the last week, we've been doing that with her, sitting down at night, going back to old videos where she was winning and saying, okay, this is where your hands were, this is where your feet were, so we got to try to get you back there. When we're dealing with retirement money, you don't want that to happen. I mean, this is a prime example. The 4% rule don't work. Well, if you're trucking along and you're counting on that 4% rule and you retire when you're 60 and all of a sudden at 80, you don't have enough money to live on, well, that's life-changing,
yes.
You know? And that's not what you want to have. And so we can help create that stable income. We can give you what I call a stress-free retirement.
Yeah, I like that.
Stress-free retirement means you don't have to worry about money. You just worry about life, you know? There's a big difference than worrying about money and worrying about life.
Christy, I know you saw it happen in 2008 because I joined you working here in late 2008. I came in right in the middle of the market melting down, and I remember the Kleenex on the table and people crying, and the reason they were crying was very simple. They had figured it out. I'm going to use the 4% rule. I've got X amount of money. But when that X went down by 30 and 35%, they had a very tough choice to make, Christy.
Yeah.
Do I take out 6% and really risk running out of money? Because you need 6% now to get the same amount every month, right?
Right.
Or do I only take 4% and don't go and see the grandkids? Do I not go on that cruise? Do I have to become a door greeter at Walmart because my nest egg shrank?
Many of them were faced, Matt, with having to go back to work.
I remember that.
You know, and it's sad because when you leave the job that you've been on for so long and you're counting on, you know, living your golden years in retirement, it's really a sad day when you have to sit down and say, okay, I've got to get another job.
Yeah.
You know, now I will say I have clients that like working little part-time jobs because it gets them out of the house and gets them doing things that they enjoy and versus, you know, a full-time job that they've got to go to every day. But they do that by choice. They don't do that out of necessity.
Correct.
And there's a big difference in having to do something and wanting to do it.
And we saw a lot of that necessity, Christy,
Yes.
In 2009. And we're not sitting here saying that another 2008's on the horizon. All we're saying is let the past be a guide.
Yes.
And now we know what can happen. If you haven't retired, we absolutely positively know that you can change your lifestyle with a major market downturn. So look at putting a portion of your money aside, especially if you're still working, in a plan where we can show you how you can get contractual guarantees.
And we know that whenever we're talking about retirement, you know, and retirement income, many of us, our first thought goes directly to Social Security.
Correct.
Now, I can't tell you how many times I sit down with, a lot of times it's couples, but I find more and more I'm meeting with single women. And, they have lots of questions and concerns about Social Security benefits. And so we contacted the Social Security Administration, and we got from them a book that's called What Every Woman Should Know.
Such a good book.
What Every Woman, and it is actually, a book.
Now, I'm a guy. I read it. Was that okay that I read that?
You can read it.
I guess.
And a lot of men might want to read it because of their wives.
Exactly.
But we're going to offer this book to any of you who call today and would like to receive a copy of it. Just give us a call. Say, hey, I'd like the book called What Every Woman Should Know. We'll send it out to you next week. If you'd like to schedule a complimentary visit where you can come in and maybe just kind of play with some numbers and see what we can do for you, we'd love to sit down and meet with you. A lot of you right now have really one concern: Obamacare. How is it going to affect you? We can sit here and talk lightly about retirement income all day, every day, but the reality is, Matt, our world is changing. Big time. I had a lady come in yesterday that she's been my client now for several years. Her husband is on kidney dialysis. He is on Social Security disability. He's got a Medicare supplement through the federal government Blue Cross plan because he was a federal employee when he retired. And his dialysis plan, his dialysis company that he goes to for his kidney dialysis is telling him that they're no longer going to accept their insurance as a preferred provider.
Wow.
Which means they're going to have to come out of their pocket with about $600 a week for him to have his treatments.
Probably 50% out of pocket.
There are going to be major changes coming. And so, if you want to learn how the Obamacare plans may affect you, give us a call.
Yeah, stay tuned because we're lining up an event for later on this month that you can attend where we are going to specifically talk about how Obamacare impacts seniors, Medicare, and Social Security. All right, when we come back, we're going to hear from Robert Powell. Bob Powell writes for Market Watch. He says a couple of things. Number one, he's got some retirement lessons that he's picked up from real retirees. A couple of things to share.
Real retirees. What's a real retiree?
Somebody who's already been there and done that, he said. But it's good stuff. And so I'll share a few of those. And I'm going to talk to Bob Powell when we come back about his most recent article, No Stock Market for Mature Investors, okay? So we'll get to that when we come back in just a moment here on Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. Good morning. Welcome back to Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. Well, we've talked this morning about, having a strategy for guaranteeing income. We like to call it buckets or pools of money. And to that end, in a recent column at MarketWatch.com, Robert Powell, wrote an article, This is No Stock Market for Old Investors. Now, that's a play on words from the movie that was very popular a few years ago, No Country for Old Men. Robert says, with all the volatility and all the uncertainty, this is no market for old investors. I had a chance to sit down with Bob Powell a few weeks ago and interview him about the article and what makes this no market for old investors. If you like the death-defying roller coaster rides, then what's going on right now in stocks and bonds, in the stock and bond markets, probably suits you fine, writes Robert Powell. But he's saying this is no market for old investors. Bob, take us through your column where you talk about this market and what it means for people who are nearing retirement or already retired.
Sure. I mean, what happens typically when markets start to get volatile as they are now, when you see the stock drop 200 points in a day, or when you see the 10-year U.S. Treasury rising upwards toward 3%, is people start to get nervous, and they begin to wonder whether they should bail out of stocks or sell their bonds. And so what we proposed to do in this column was to give people a chance to sort of think about what they're doing before they do it, and to make sure that before they do anything, it's not rashly, that it's in line with what their designed plan was. So the first thing that we talk to people about is this notion that if you have a written financial plan and you have what's called an investment policy statement in place, then those two things would likely prevent sleepless nights when markets tumble or bonds rise. and that the key to having an investment plan, an investment portfolio, is that when you're building an optimal portfolio designed for the long run, it means never having to freak out when there's a 200-point drop in the stock market.
Right. Can we talk specifically about bonds and both bond funds? Some people may be asking, why has that moved so much? It has to do with interest rates, right?
Well, it does. So right now, what we know is that the Fed has been pumping money into the economy through its QE program, and that they have suggested that they will begin to taper down that program in the coming months, and everyone is speculating when that might be. So the moment that happens, I think there will be a couple things that could go on. One is that stocks might fall, but also in anticipation of the notion that the Feds will stop buying bonds, is that rates will rise because of that. How much, we don't know because they're inflated and it's hard to sort of estimate. But what we know is that, the economy is improving, unemployment rate is coming down a little bit, and all those things were the things that the Fed said needed to happen before they stopped tapering its stimulus program. So obviously when the economy starts to improve, you might see signs of inflation, and inflation, obviously has an effect on bonds because as rates rise, as inflation rises, so too will bond yields.
So with the person who is saving for retirement but getting close, you have some guidance for them.
That's right. So, the thing obviously, if you don't have a financial plan, get one. If you don't have an investment policy statement, put that in place. The investment policy statement will do a couple things. One is that it will dictate what your asset allocation should be. How much should you have in stocks? How much should you have in bonds? And then more importantly, within how much you have in stocks and within how much you have in bonds, are you well diversified? Because the notion is that if you're well diversified, when one asset goes up, the other might go down, and when one goes down, the other might go up. So if you're well diversified, you'll be able to ride out these bumps. Obviously, what happened in the past couple of days is it wasn't across the board, right? What we're watching is not just that one type of stock. Not all stocks are going down. One kind of stock is going down, and another kind of stock is going up. So if you're well diversified, you can ride these kinds of storms out. So that's the important part about having an investment policy statement. The other is assuming that you have the right asset allocation, that you're properly diversified, you should be rebalancing your portfolio. And if you're close to retirement, now might be a time to look at your portfolio and rebalance it. Sell your winners and reinvest the difference in your losers. Or when you're selling your winners, maybe take some money out of the market, set it aside so that you have living expenses for the next 6 to 12 months. And that way, what you'll be doing is reducing your exposure to the market, making sure that you have enough money set aside to pay for your living expenses, and you'll be able to sleep at night if you do those kinds of things.
And you write, if you're in retirement, how can you survive another downturn? Talk about for those who are already retired, who are certainly nervous about this volatility.
Well, again, the thing about surviving these kinds of downturns when you're in retirement is ultimately you want to reduce your exposure to risky assets, but you don't want to reduce it so much so that you don't have an opportunity to, so that if you have 30 years in retirement, that you don't have any assets that are keeping pace with inflation. So it's a very delicate balance, but the thing that you don't want to do is to put at risk your standard of living in the present, because you may need some of that money to live on. So the thing is, you can't bet the ranch on stocks, and now more than ever, those of us who have witnessed the year 2000, the year 2008, and the possibility of what could happen if the Fed starts tapering, is you don't want to put the money that you need, for your housing, for your food, for your transportation, for your the necessities, the necessary expenses in retirement at risk in the stock market.
Robert Powell is the editor of Retirement Weekly, published by MarketWatch. You can find out more at marketwatch.com. And you've long preached, I guess that's the right word, Bob, you've long preached that when you're in retirement, make sure you've got that stable platform beneath you with some sort of fixed income portfolio as well, right?
That's right. So, one of the things that people, there's a new line of thinking that says what you want to do is to create a floor for your standard of living. And that floor could be made up of any kind of investment that you think will, make sure that you have income to support those expenses. It could be bonds. It could be an income annuity. It certainly is Social Security. It could be your defined benefit pension plan if you have one. Anything that you'll be able to rely on to fund the expenses that have to be funded. Whatever your standard of living is, it doesn't necessarily have to be fixed expenses. If you have a standard of living that you want to insure, then you definitely need sources of income that, in the best of cases, are inflation adjusted, and then, but in the worst of cases, at least, are guaranteeing some sort of income against your desired lifestyle.
Bob Powell from Market Watch on his recent article, No Market for Old Investors. And I really like what Bob said there at the end because it reinforces what we've been talking about today here on Your Money Matters. Do you have a plan in place to guarantee that you've got the basics covered? We're not saying, hey, you should take every dime out of the stock market and throw it into one of our plans. But it's about having a plan. It's about, as we talked about earlier, having a strategy that says, I don't have to worry about my steady income. Now, for some of you, the only source of reliable, steady income you'll have in retirement is Social Security. Others, it's different. You'll have Social Security and a pension, maybe a pension from the state or a federal government, or maybe a pension from the company from which you retire. But, of course, pensions are becoming more and more rare. For those of you in your late 50s, early 60s, pensions are probably a part of your life. But for those of us in our 40s and those of you in your early 50s, I know you're asking, what's a pension, right? So for those without a pension, it is even more critical than ever that you have a plan to guarantee that base income is there for you to cover those needs of everyday life. We can help with that. Again, if you would like a copy of what every woman needs to know about Social Security, we'd be more than happy to send that out to you. Because that is one of the important parts of your retirement. And this brochure, guys, you can get it. You can read it too. But it's great because it really empowers you ladies to understand what is involved in maximizing your Social Security benefits. So to receive your free copy, no obligation, simply call us at 791-5773. That's 791-5773, and we'll drop a copy in the mail to you. This great booklet, What Every Woman Needs to Know About Social Security. Again, to call us, it's simply 791-5773. We'd like to have you come by and see us, too, during the week. We're at 170 Veterans Boulevard. We're on Veterans Boulevard in Denham Springs, right between Range and Florida Boulevard. We're back in a moment. We've got more of Your Money Matters coming up next here on Talk 107.3 WBRP.
Are you concerned about the recent stock market pullback? If so, call the Presley Group. This is Christy Smith, owner of the Presley Group. We can show you how to protect your money from any and all stock market losses while letting you share in market gains in the good years. Call today for a free, no-obligation appointment. Call 791-5773. That's 791-5773. Or visit safemoneyplan.net.
And wrapping things up on this weekend morning, good to have you with us. Remember, our show airs every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. If you're tuning in late on Saturday morning and you missed any part of our show, the show re-airs, by the way, Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. right here on Talk 107.3 FM. And you can always hear the show on demand on your schedule by visiting our website. Go to safemoneyplan.net. That's www.safemoneyplan.net, and you can click the radio button there and hear any of our past shows at your leisure on demand. You may ask, why do we have a website titled Safe Money Plan? Well, there are three words there, right? Safe Money Plan. Let's start with the middle word, money. At the Presley Group, it's about helping you with your money. Word number two, it's actually word number three, but the second word that I'm going to discuss is plan. How many of you have a retirement plan? How many of you have given a retirement plan a significant amount of thought. A recent survey that came out said that only about 27% of baby boomers had actually sat down and calculated how much money you're going to need in retirement. And I think one of the common things that happens, folks, is retirement sneaks up on you. You know, you're busy working. You're busy raising kids, working, paying taxes, trying to cope in this world. And you turn around and, oh my goodness, I'm retiring in 6 months. It's about having a plan. And the first word in our web address is safe. That's what we do at the Presley Group. That's why 5 years ago I went to work with Christy Smith, because I found an amazing strategy to help you during retirement, a safe alternative to putting your money at risk in the market. We've discussed it this hour already, but we turn to great, rock-solid insurance companies. And just like you depend on an insurance company to protect your home, your property, your car, your life, your health, we turn to great, rock-solid insurance companies to protect your money. Fixed indexed annuities are not new. They've been around since about the mid-1990s. But just now, more and more people are discovering that these plans are a great alternative to leaving all of your nest egg up to the whims of the market. Come see us. Schedule that free one-on-one visit. There's no obligation, no arm twisting. It's a 1 hour sit down to really get to know you, to help work on that third word in our web address, plan. It's about safety. It's about protecting your principal from market losses. It's about letting you share in market gains. And as we've discussed this hour, helping you create that guaranteed stream of retirement income. But most importantly, it's about having a plan. It's about having a plan, whether that plan is protecting your principal and growing it safely, or whether that plan is creating that guaranteed stream of retirement income. At the Presley Group, it's about a plan. And when you sit down with us for 1 hour for your initial consultation, we're going to listen. We're going to take the time to listen to your concerns, your needs, your hopes, and your goals, and then work on you a safe money plan. So give us a call. Free, no obligation, one-on-one consultation is at 791-5773. Of course, you can always contact us directly through the website, safemoneyplan.net. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here next weekend for more of Your Money Matters.